Well, hello there, folks. How are you? It's lovely to see you. So thank you very much for popping by just to check out this absolute corker of a recipe. And I do hope that I find you very well indeed. And I urge you to give this a go if you do like a nice pie like we do. This stew in this pie is so rich and full of flavour from that beef stock, and there's Stilton in there, and obviously the juices from the meat. It's just wonderful. Everything that I'm using will be listed underneath the video, but I'll also pop it on screen as we go as well. So let me show you what I've got here. So I've got some diced beef. You can use casserole steak, chuck steak, whatever you like. I've got some beef stock, some Guinness, but you could use wine if you prefer, or leave it out completely. I've got some Stilton, some onions, some flour, some garlic, a few bay leaves as well, a tablespoon of tomato puree, some Worcester sauce, and I've got an egg just to glaze the pastry at the end. So go over to your cooker, grab yourself a nice big pan. I'm not using a non-stick pan because I prefer using a sticky pan for this kind of thing. Pop some olive oil in, get it nice and spitting hot, and then to that you want to add your beef. So just pop it in. You don't have to add any flour or anything. We will be adding flour later on. That's just going to help thicken it up. Some salt and pepper on top, and you just want to let this brown. Keep this in quite a high heat. Turn it over a couple of times until it looks something like this, and then you're good to go. So I'm just going to lift this out and pop it into a bowl that I've got there just at the side, and we're going to use the same pan for everything else. So it's a one pan wonder. So easy, and the flavour you're going to get for this is absolutely insane. So pop in your onion. This is just a medium onion. A wee dash of salt to help draw the moisture out of your onion, and it's going to help it cook and sweat down a lot faster. Once your onion is nice and soft, you can pop in your garlic. I'm using 3 cloves of garlic, which I've sliced up, but you can mince yours if you prefer. We love garlic, and I like the wee chunks of garlic, but you can do whatever you like. Give that another minute, and to this we're going to pop in 3 tablespoons of plain flour. This is going to help thicken your gravy at the end, and it does turn out lovely and thick and glossy. Let this cook for about a minute just to get rid of that, the raw flour flavour. Then to that we're going to add our beef stock. So around about 200 mils of beef stock. You don't need a lot because we're going to be adding other liquid as well. So stir that round until it's nicely combined and thickened. And then we're going to add in the Guinness. Now, if you don't like Guinness, you can use red wine. If you don't want any alcohol, just pop in some extra stock. So 300 ml of stock instead of the Guinness, or 300 ml of wine if you prefer to use wine. Give that a good stir around, and to that I'm going to add 1 tablespoon of tomato puree, or tomato paste, however you like to say it, and 1 tablespoon of Worcester sauce, or Worcestershire sauce, and give that a good stir around until it's nicely combined. Bring that up to a simmer, and you can see already it's getting nice and thick. So all you have to do now is pop in your beef that has been resting on the side, along with any resting juices that are there. Give it a wee stir around, and we're going to pop in a couple of bay leaves. So 2 or 3 of these is absolutely fine. Just remember to get them out at the end, because you don't want to be chewing on, bay leaves. So pop your lid on, put your cooker on as low as you can get it, very, very low, for about 1 to 2 hours, just until your beef is lovely and tender. Now this is going to depend on the kind of beef you're using and how low you're cooking it for, but just keep it going until it's lovely, fall apart tender. It's just wonderful, let me tell you, and the smell off of this was crazy. So turn your heat off completely, and now we're going to add the cheese. So this Stilton, you just want to crumble it by hand on top of your beef, and the residual heat that is in your stew is going to be enough to make this melt down and combine with everything else. So you don't want any heat in this at this point. Just make sure you give it a good stir, and that's it done. All you have to do now is let this cool while you're getting your pastry together. And once you've done your pastry, it will be cool enough just to pop in. It doesn't have to be cold, just not piping hot. This is the tin that I'm using here. This is actually a cake tin, because I do want a deep fill pie. So this is an 8-inch tin, and it's got a loose bottom, which is going to make it really easy to get out at the end. I'm using short crust pastry for the bottom and puff pastry for the top. It's just the shop bought one, but you might have to roll it out a wee bit with your rolling pin just to make sure that it fits your tin, which I had to do here. So just plop it into your tin. This is a non-stick tin, so I didn't have to oil this or anything. But if your tin is not non-stick, you will need to grease it with some butter or oil first. Just go around with your knuckles and push it into all the corners, just like this. Make sure it's hanging over the edge. We're just going to cut the excess pastry away with the back of a knife. And do keep your pastry because you can use that for other things. I tend to make pastry twists with my leftover pastry. We love a good pastry twist. So just go all the way around with the back of a knife and your pastry will come away really easily. Just like this. And once you're happy, set that to the side. And I couldn't get ready rolled puff pastry, so I had to get a puff pastry block. But if you can get the one in a roll, you know, that's better. You'll also need something to cut round to give you a nice round shape for your lid. So if you're having to roll your pastry out, make sure your surface is well floured. I'm just going to turn this over because it's quite sticky so that it's floured on both sides. Just grab your rolling pin out. You want to roll this out to about 3 to 3.5 millimetre thickness, which is around about the same thickness as a pound coin. So just keep going until you're happy. And again, you're going to have leftover pastry, but like I said, we like to use this for pastry twists. They're just wonderful. A wee bit of grated cheese, twist it up and pop it into the oven, and they are so tasty. So just pop your lid off to the side for the time being until we fill your pie up. So get your bottom of your tray back and then just fill it up with your stew. As you can see, you know, there's still a wee bit of heat in there, but it doesn't matter, just as long as it's not, you know, too warm. And this is ideal. Just move it around to make sure it's nice and even, and then plop your top on. Now my pastry was quite sticky, so I didn't have to go around my rim with egg or water or anything, but if your pastry is quite dry, you will need to go around the rim of your case with some water or some beaten egg just to make sure that it sticks down. But like I said, mine was nice and sticky, so I didn't have to do that. And again, just with the back of your knife, go around and get rid of that excess pastry. And this was absolutely ideal. As you can see, the edges are nicely sealed. So the last thing I'm going to do is go over the top with some beaten egg. This is just a whole egg which I've beaten with a fork. And just use a wee brush or something, or even a wee bit of kitchen towel if you don't have a brush, just all over the top. And do put a wee hole or some slats in the top just to let any steam escape to prevent it boiling over. Now you want to put this into the middle of your oven for about 50 minutes on a nice slow heat, and you will want to cover this halfway through with some foil just to make sure that your top doesn't burn. But do give it about 50 minutes and your pastry will be perfectly cooked round the sides and underneath as well. So you don't have to blind bake this because we are, you know, baking it for so long. And you will see in a wee second just how lovely this came out. Now because it's a loose bottom tin, I just popped a bowl upside down to give me access and let me show you just how sturdy this pastry is. I was delighted with this, and it slips off of your base really easy as well, just because the pastry is so well cooked. So let this cool down for about 10 minutes before you attempt to cut into it, because this is going to be piping hot, and as you can see, full of gravy. So I was quite nervous about picking this up because, you know, the gravy was swimming everywhere. But let me tell you, the flavour of this was absolutely beautiful. Highly recommended you give this one a go. And we just had some baby new potatoes with some garlic butter, and I made some cauliflower and a quick cheese sauce as well. So do let me know if you're planning on giving that one a go. And just before I leave you, a huge thank you to the supporters of the channel over on my Patreon page, to the people here on YouTube, and for the channel members, and to you all for leaving your lovely comments and for sharing the videos. You know, I'm just blown away with how wonderful a wee community we have here. So thank you all very much. And I will catch up with you during the week for another wee recipe, shopping, unbagging, or whatever else comes my way. So you take care of yourselves, and I'll see you off soon back here on What's for Tea. Bye now.